everyone. This is Caitlin.
And this is Lacey. And Si Baby's not with us today.
I was like, it's pretty awkward not saying that now.
I know.
And this is Women in the Trailer Industry. This is weird. I don't know. These cameras are much bigger than they usually are. So today we're going to talk about, yesterday we had our quarterly conversation, a part of EOS, and our implementer was Lisa Skipper. So if you want to implement EOS from our talks, definitely have a conversation with Lisa.
Or reach out to us and we can give you her contact information.
For sure.
She's a wonderful implementer.
Absolutely. And so we had our quarterly planning. So tell us a little bit about what we did there.
So every quarter we meet with our implementer of EOS, and this is different. We've talked about the quarterlies we have with our own teammates that are under us. This is different. This is your leadership team coming to meet with the implementer of EOS, and she pretty much from the top down helps us plan what our next quarter is going to be. What does that look like? What are some issues that we ran into the last quarter? How are we going to address those? If we didn't meet our rocks that we have set, which was hard for us to address this week, to see what do we need to take a to-do from that? Why didn't we meet those rocks? You know, a company rock is basically a 90-day goal that you're setting for the company, and those have to be 100% complete. And really what that is like, you're not going to get a whooping if you don't meet these, but you need to strive for 100%. And if you're not, then we gets into like, are you a good predicting team? Are you good predicting well for your company? Are you making things that are achievable? So all that plays into it. So anyways, I digress. But that's kind of an explanation of what the difference is between our quarterly with the implementer, Lisa, and then our quarterlies that we have with our teammates. But so it was a lot. I think let's first talk about not meeting the goals that we had set. So can you let's just dive into that because let's be open about us not meeting that.
So I think we've done a quarterly for 2 quarters now. And so the first one actually went better than the second one did. Yeah. We hardly met any of our rocks. And what we learned was that, one, we like to be overachievers, which is kind of hard to say not to be an overachiever, right? Because that's what you want from everyone. But also, when you try to overachieve too much, you don't end up getting anything done. Or you don't get it done in the time frame you laid out. Yeah. So you just have to be real with yourself and say, okay, are we really going to get this entire project done in this time frame? The next thing is, don't give yourself a smaller time frame when you know it's for the entire quarter. Just stick with the quarter, and if you get it done before then, great. But if you only give yourself 5 days to do it, more than likely you're going to fail, especially if you're waiting on other people. What else did we learn? Listen to Lisa.
Yeah. So if you have somebody with experience that's telling you like, are you sure you can scope that and meet it? If they're asking those questions, you should probably ask yourself the same question. Yeah. I think one of the big things that we learned from that is that, processes, we've talked a lot about it, but that was one of the ones that she was like, you sure you can make the process, simplify the process, get it written, get it approved, then train on it, your entire team, 100%, and then start measuring, can you do all of that in 90 days? And we're like, yes, we can. We had no idea, right? This was our first time putting processes down that we do. It's not our first time to have a process, but it's our first time to simplify and document and go towards training and measuring those things, which are very, very important for a company. We had no idea what that was going to take. It took us, with people being out. Of course, I was on maternity leave, came back. And so you come back into it trying to get readjusted and you're having to write your processes at that point. It's a lot to write, to simplify and get documented. But then to even wrap your brain around trying to train after that is like mind blown. Like,
and then measure. What did measure even mean?
We had to help her or have her help us define, how do you measure if a process is being carried out? And so we went down how to do that, which was very, very helpful. But that was a big one. Like if somebody with experience is asking you a question about it, you should really stop and think like.
Yeah. And another one is words matter.
Yeah.
So what words are you using? Does everyone understand what that word means? Like optimized. That this is optimized. Like, what does optimized even mean?
How are we measuring that?
What does strategy mean? What does this mean? Like, what does this person, especially if they're company goals, what do people want from this so that you can deliver what is being asked of?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like we had gotten into the sequence of, well, let's get this strategy. Great. Let's get this plan. Great. Let's optimize. And like, isn't optimizing what the strategy was? So, and maybe it's just implementation of that. But if it's not, then that strategy was totally off par.
Yeah.
And you just spent an entire quarter doing the strategy for what reason? And so definitely, words matter, defining those words and really trying to, I guess, just figure out what everyone wants and what everyone's expectations are from those words.
Yeah.
So.
One good question to ask when you're talking about that is, what does done look like?
Yeah.
So if you're asking whoever's rock that is, like, what does done look like for you? And you can say what that looks like for you. And then, in this case, Tyler, our company owner, got to say, well, I would really like it done to look like this. And so then you have a clear picture, like, okay, so we're saying optimizing, but this is what done looks like. That could mean, that's a great question, because that could mean optimize could mean 100,000 different things, you know? Another thing Caitlin's already hit on, but a specific example is, there was 2 different, quarter goals that I had. I say goals, cause I'm going to come back to, like, we keep saying rocks, but that just means your company goal for the quarter. So one of the ones that I had was like, I had 90 days to do it, but by 2/16, I'm going to have this done. I cut myself like a month and a half short on that. And so I'm like, you don't meet it. And if you don't meet that date that you set on it just unnecessarily, then you don't meet your rock. You didn't meet it. And I think a good thing to think about there is like, why we did that and what we got into was, somebody asking us, what are some milestones? We need to set a milestone so we can make sure that every week we're not just saying that it's on track. What does that mean? Because I think people that are your higher ups, they need to know, like, you just keep saying on track, but this is for the company. So I need to really have a specific example of where you're at. And we took it as, we're going to put a date on it that's well before this, quarter is over. So I'd caution you on doing that. So if somebody that's higher up from you needs a milestone, then give them an update of where you are, so they know exactly what you're working on.
And even that, you talk about that one, and then I just think about the strategy and stuff that we talked about earlier. I think it's also for myself, even if I was working on something, like, to make sure everyone's actually looked at it. 'Cause you created this strategy, right? Has Tyler even looked at it? You know what I'm saying? And so what for? Like, we want to make sure that our time is of best use. Yeah. So if he's the one who wanted the strategy, why is he not looked at it? You know what I'm saying? And that may be something we have to take upon ourselves to do too, just for that peace of mind, because for sure, like, we just don't want to waste our time and not know what that's being used for. So we talk about a lot about having an implementer, but you can do EOS and create the EOS structure by yourself and self-implement. And so for the goals and the rocks, really that just means, what do you want your revenue to look like?
Right.
What do you want your profit to look like? What measurables are going to help you get there? Ours is parts delivered and returning customers, and then are your goals SMART? So specific, measurable, achievable. And then the last one, she didn't spell out RT, but she said,
oh gosh, I wrote it down.
I wrote it down too. So you're not going to get that part, but the SMART means relevant and timely.
Yeah.
So just make sure it hits all those boxes. Like, don't just say,
is it the best use of, that was the last one. That was it. Is it the best use of your time?
Mm-hmm. So is measuring core process is the best use of our time? Yes. Absolutely. Right.
Yes.
Because that's what's going to make the wheels keep turning, and a good foundation, is creating this strategy the best use of our time. Probably not. Maybe at the end of the day, or next time we can say, it's good use of our time, but what is it going to be used for and in what way?
Right.
Or is it just for someone to know? Because if it's just for someone to know, then it really shouldn't be a rock and they can kind of get it when they can get it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly,
And it shouldn't be a priority for somebody. So you can definitely self-implement this, you know, create a structure for your business, and really just try to set quarterly meetings so that you can, plan for the next quarter. And so we'll have an annual soon and we get to plan the entire next year. So that'll be fun and overwhelming at the same time. So also be prepared to leave quarterlies exhausted and tired
every time
and done with everything. So
so we left our quarterly yesterday, and you know, as it goes, and it's just part of it. If you are over a lot of things that tie to revenue, like I am, you're going to be handed a lot of things to do every time. And so I know that going into it, and I'm totally like on board with that. But when I left there yesterday, I was like, okay,
she was a bit on edge.
Yeah. I have like all these things to get done at this point. And so I'm going to go home and do it. And when I got home, I was like, nope, I'm just going to hold my baby who went to daycare for the first time ever today for a full day. I'm just going to hold him and let him sleep on me and not put him in that swing and start working, because honestly, I didn't even have the mental capacity at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, it stretches you, and that's what it's meant to do. If it didn't, then what are you doing? Like, why are you there?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think definitely there, and I saw you and Juan both trying to mill over y'all's things. Like, honestly, I gave 2 cares about my phone that day. Because it's just, you only have mental capacity to do so much. And so that problem can wait till the next day.
I know. So thank you, boss. I'm listening, because next time, like, put your phone down and for real, leave
Don't
it down.
even look at it. They will survive. We can play them a theme song when we get back.
Yes,
like,
for sure.
Sorry, it only made you stronger. So,
but that's a good thing to say too, because when you're on leadership, you are also only human. So you only have capacity for so much. And if you're giving it your all to plan efficiently for your entire company and all your teams for this next quarter to drive that 1-year goal and that 3-year picture and that 8-year big audacious goal, right? You got to put everything else down. I mean, you just don't, and you already walk out exhausted. So add that on top of trying to be in the weeds of whatever's going on back at work too. And you're like, it's too much.
Absolutely. I know I was kind of prepping, but I guess I don't really have that many direct reports that weren't there. So I was expecting, like, I slacked you yesterday and you hadn't gotten back to me. And I was just I was calmly planning my response. Like, I'm sorry. How can I help you?
Yeah.
You know, like, because you can only do
pocket.
so much in a day, and those days are completely exhausting. So you did get a lot of stuff, you know, given to you, a lot of rocks, a lot of what I call imaginary rocks, because you know that those rocks are going to entail a million other things that you have to get done before those. So how are you dealing with that kind of overwhelm and stress at this time? And then also your baby in daycare.
Yeah. So I think this time, even though it was a lot and I was kind of exhausted at the end of the day, I felt like I had a little different of an outlook, because I've worked to now have pretty much a full team. And I knew that even though that seemed like a lot to me, what I had to do was to think about it, wrap my brain around what needs to be done, and then delegate, because I have these people with skills that I can delegate to. And so that's like, so I don't know. I say refreshing a lot, but more than that, it's pretty exciting that you have a team that you trust and they're good. And like, you can just, okay, this is what needs to be done. These are the steps we need to take. You're taking this step, you're taking this step, and just start doling them out, and know that while you can trust them to get it done, you also don't have to spend a whole lot of time like, here's your step, but now I need to train you how to do your step. So I could just do this myself anyway. So you don't have that feeling either. And so this is not an overnight process, right? So I've worked for a while now and been like
probably 9 months now. Huh?
Yeah. Almost a year, like trying to figure out what I needed and then get to that point. And so we're kind of arriving at that point where it's a good team and they have the company's best interest in mind, and all the things so we go back to, what do you hire and fire on? And that's our core values. So I did that, and so now I feel good knowing that they not only have the skill, but they have the company's best interest in mind. So,
and it's really weird, because I've been watching the Slack channels and everybody's communicating and working on different things together. And it's kind of like we made it feeling like not even like on the revenue side or any of that stuff, but just getting the right people in the right seats, in the seats that need to be filled. And it's also a good lesson to learn, because even in our quarterly yesterday, we were discussing, a position, doing all of these things, and then we can relate it back to, but this is when Laci used to do all of these things, and you can't give something your 100% when you're trying to do 5 other things. Yeah. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So what things can not have 100% at all times, and definitely on the revenue side.
Absolutely.
Everything has to have 100%, like for finance and IT and HR. I mean, those can have less percentages, right? Because people can wait on those things.
Yeah.
Maybe not finance sometimes, but
probably not finance.
It is what it is. Well, we try.
A lot of other people are relying on the finance. So
So,
but another good thing too was like seeing the Slack channel blow up yesterday, and the questions weren't like, "Hey, Laci, I finished that task. What do you need me to do next?"
Yeah,
that is the difference. Is like, no, that question's not being asked anymore. They know what my expectation is, big picture, and they're doing the little things to go after it. And then they're talking back and forth with each other like, hey, this didn't work for me. You guys have any way that I can fix this? And so they're talking back and forth. They're like, hey, this coding's not working, or this is bad. Let's fix it. Like and I'm just like, this is awesome.
It's kind of like battle of the skill sets.
Yes, exactly.
which is fun.
It is fun. And it's the same way, like in the sales room too, there, there's this competitiveness that's coming out of there, and it's like, it's healthy. A little bit of competitiveness is always healthy in a sales room, but they're all being this quote unquote men about everything and discussing with each other and getting through their problems. And it makes my life so much easier. Like when I can just know that everybody's going after what we need to raise this company to where we have to be.
Yeah. Everybody's minds are focused in the right direction and not on 1,000 other things.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So
that was our quarterly in a nutshell. Overwhelmed as normal, but we at least have some good people under us and
so
able to.
Let's before we get off here. So this cracked me up because at the end of it, Tyler was like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of feeling like bored. Like we didn't really get anything done." And I'm over there like my face is red. I'm about to my head's exploding with all the things. And Lisa just starts cracking up because she's like, "I did my job well if the visionary, the owner, says this is boring," and everybody else is like, "Holy shit, there is so much to get done."
Yeah.
So that was just kind of like a mind opener for me too, because I was like, "What are you talking about? Boring?"
Yeah, exactly. Because the visionary is always the idea man. He always wants to go. But in a perfect world, but there's not 1,000 of us, and a business can't have that many of us. So, and be profitable at the same time. So. Definitely some lessons learned that day and some fun experiences, and just getting out of the office and, taking a step away where you don't have all the distractions. Because if you do it here, people will come up here and interrupt because of whatever reason. And so it's just nice to get away and be able to isolate yourself.
Yeah. And be able to give it your 110% of your mind capacity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, NATDA is coming up at the end of August. Super excited about that. We have some women in the trailer committee things going on, and check out for a big announcement tomorrow. Actually, I don't know when you're watching this, but for Women's Day, March 8th.
International Women's Day.
There'll be some exciting announcements. So check out NATDA for that. Super excited to go there. We'll have some networking events for women in the trailer industry. And it's not just about us at our company and all that other stuff. It's really uniting women in the trailer industry who are growing in these leadership positions, becoming owners of these companies in a male-dominated industry, and really how we can unite together, help each other, and really just all succeed from there. So.
For sure. It's exciting.
Yep. Well, like, follow, subscribe everywhere you watch our podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.